It was the first week of December, and every house on Maplewood Drive shimmered with Christmas spirit. Every house, except mine. I'd just finished hanging a single string of golden lights across the porch when a white SUV with the HOA logo rolled up. Out stepped Charles Denton, the newly elected HOA compliance officer, clipboard in hand and a smirk that could curdle eggnog. "Mr. Lawson," he said, looking up at my porch like it offended him personally. "Those lights aren't HOA approved. You'll need to remove them, or face a $250 fine for non-compliant seasonal decor." I laughed, thinking it was a joke. "Charles, they're just lights. It's Christmas." He didn't laugh. "And it's also a private community with standards." Then, without warning, he snapped a photo and handed me a yellow notice. It read, "Notice of violation, unauthorized holiday installations." That was my introduction to what would become the most ridiculous neighborhood war of my life. Oh, and if you've ever had an HOA nightmare like this, make sure to hit subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to see how this one ends. Over the next few days, things got worse. Every morning, I'd find a new citation slipped under my doormat. Inflatable Santa violates lawn presentation rules. Front door wreath exceeds size limits. Excessive exterior illumination visible from the street past 9:30 p.m. Each fine came with a threat. Failure to comply may result in legal action by the HOA board. My kids, Emma and Lucas, didn't understand. They'd worked all week making paper snowflakes and cutting out reindeer silhouettes for the windows. My wife tried to calm me, but when the HOA sent a letter warning they might temporarily suspend community privileges if I didn't remove the decorations, something in me snapped. Charles Denton wasn't enforcing rules. He was bullying us. That night, I went for a walk around the neighborhood with my phone camera on, and guess what I found? 3 houses down, another family had wrapped their entire oak tree in rainbow LEDs. Across the street, a 12-foot snowman waved from someone's yard. Not one of them had a single citation, only me. It wasn't about the decorations, it was personal. The next day, I pulled out my old home security cameras from the garage, 4 little black domes I hadn't used since summer. I set them up around the porch and driveway. At 2 a.m. the following night, the motion alert pinged my phone. I opened the feed and froze. There he was, Charles Denton, sneaking up my driveway, flashlight in hand, snapping photos of my yard. He wasn't just patrolling, he was hunting for violations. The next morning, I printed the footage and sent it in an email to the HOA board titled, "Harassment Evidence, Officer Denton Trespassing." Hours later, I got a reply. Not from the board, but from Denton himself. "You are not authorized to record or surveil HOA representatives during compliance inspections. Continuing to do so will escalate this matter." I couldn't believe the audacity. He was the one trespassing and now he was threatening me. That's when I decided I wasn't going to play defense anymore. 2 days later, my daughter Emma came running into the living room holding a red envelope. "Dad, Santa wrote back. We'd sent letters to the North Pole the week before." She tore it open before I could say a word. Inside was a neatly folded note on thick parchment paper, stamped with a wax seal shaped like a sleigh bell. It read, "Dear Emma and Lucas, I heard someone's been trying to cancel Christmas on your street. Don't worry, Santa keeps receipts. Keep believing. Merry Christmas, and tell your dad to check the mailbox tomorrow night. Santa." I smiled, thinking it was one of those cute postal gimmicks, but what showed up the next night wasn't from any gimmick service. It was a certified envelope, delivered to our mailbox with the HOA's logo on it and a red, urgent stamp. Inside, a single typed page, "Notice of Special Meeting, Disciplinary Review Mr. Lawson, Violation of HOA Bylaws, Section 14.3, Defiance of Community Standards." In other words, Charles Denton was calling a hearing to publicly humiliate me. But what he didn't know was that Santa's letter wasn't just a story. It was about to become Exhibit A in the most unexpected HOA showdown ever. In a community where gossip traveled faster than Wi-Fi, everyone knew about the upcoming special meeting. Charles Denton had framed it as a disciplinary hearing, but to me it was a public ambush. The day before the meeting, I decided to get my ducks, or in this case elves, in a row. I started digging through the HOA's bylaws, a 72-page PDF most people never bothered to read. And there it was, hidden in Section 9.2. Temporary holiday decor is permissible between December 1st and January 5th, provided it does not pose a safety hazard. Everything I'd done was within the rules. Denton wasn't enforcing the bylaws, he was rewriting them in his head. I printed that clause and stuck it in a folder labeled Operation Christmas Freedom. But I wasn't done. I had a hunch that my situation wasn't isolated, so I went door to door under the guise of dropping off cookies. What I found was telling. 3 families had received similar warning letters, all from Denton, and all for petty subjective infractions. One woman said she'd been fined for excessive sparkle on her lawn ornaments. Another had her HOA parking pass suspended because her yard inflatables obstructed community visibility. Patterns were forming, and not the pretty kind you find on wrapping paper. That night, I installed a small motion-activated camera inside one of our reindeer decorations. Its LED eyes hid the lens perfectly. By 3 a.m. I caught what I'd been waiting for, Denton again. Only this time he wasn't alone. He was with another board member whispering, "He's trying to bait us. Make sure you get photos of everything." It was surveillance gold. The next morning, I reached out to my friend Alex, a property rights attorney who'd helped me once when a neighbor tried to claim part of my fence line. When I told him what was going on, he chuckled darkly. Classic HOA overreach. They count on fear and paperwork to keep people compliant. But the moment they step on private property without authorization, they cross into legal trespass. He advised me to document everything, every letter, every photo, every minute of video, and email it to myself for timestamp proof, so I did. But there was one more thing. I asked Alex if there was a way to make sure my evidence couldn't mysteriously disappear before the meeting. His solution? Upload everything to a shared drive and send a read-only link to the entire HOA board, the city's community compliance officer, and one more person, the local news reporter who covered small-town legal disputes. If Denton wanted a spectacle, he was about to get one. On the evening before the meeting, something strange happened. A red envelope appeared on my doorstep again, same wax seal, same handwriting as Emma's Santa letter, only this time it wasn't addressed to her. It was addressed to Charles Denton. My wife raised an eyebrow. "You planning something?" I smiled. "Not me." "Santa is." Inside that letter was a carefully written message printed on parchment. "Dear Charles, my elves have been watching. You've been naughty, trespassing after dark, spreading false rules and stealing joy from families. You've violated the Christmas Code, Section 9.2. Thou shalt not ruin December. You'll find your name on the naughty list publicly at tomorrow's meeting. Merry consequences. Santa." I sealed it back up and quietly slipped it into the HOA office's overnight drop box. When morning came, the entire neighborhood was buzzing. Someone had leaked that Santa had written to Charles. Even the local Facebook group had screenshots of the letter. The comments were brutal. "Guess the Grinch finally got caught. Hope Santa brings him a lump of coal and a lawsuit." By the time I left for the meeting that night, Denton's smug confidence had vanished. His SUV was parked crooked, and his face was pale under the streetlights. The HOA clubhouse was packed. Half the community had shown up just to observe. The board members sat at the front table like a jury, papers stacked high. Denton opened the session with a cough. "We're here to address repeated violations by resident Mr. Lawson." But before he could finish, the board president, Mrs. Green, interrupted him. "Before we proceed, I believe there's been an incident. Mr. Denton, would you like to explain why a letter signed Santa accusing you of misconduct was found in the HOA office box this morning?" The room went silent. You could hear the hum of the vending machine in the back. Denton's face flushed red. "That's irrelevant. Someone is trying to discredit me." I stood up slowly, holding a folder thick with evidence. "Actually, Mrs. Green, it's entirely relevant, because everything in that letter, trespassing, false citations, harassment, is true. And I can prove it," the crowd gasped. Denton froze. The Christmas lights outside flickered through the clubhouse window like silent witnesses. This was it. The showdown was about to begin. The HOA clubhouse that night felt like a courtroom dressed in tinsel. Folding chairs lined the back wall, every one of them filled. Neighbors whispered behind styrofoam cups of cocoa, eyes darting between me and Charles Denton at the front table. Mrs. Green, the HOA president, called the meeting to order. Her tone was stern but curious. She already knew this wasn't going to be a normal disciplinary review. "Mr. Lawson," she began, "we're here to discuss multiple reports of non-compliance with holiday decor guidelines." "Actually," I interrupted, placing my folder on the table, "we're here to discuss harassment, trespassing, and abuse of power by a man who seems allergic to Christmas joy." The room erupted in murmurs. Denton stood up, red-faced. "You're out of line, Lawson. You've been deliberately antagonizing the HOA." I flipped open the folder. "These," I said, holding up photos, "are screenshots of your late-night visits to my property. Time-stamped with GPS data. Here's video footage of you and another board member at 2:03 a.m. sneaking through my driveway to photograph my lights. Care to explain that? Mrs. Green's eyes narrowed. Is that true, Charles? He stammered. I was performing compliance inspections. After midnight, she cut in. Without notice. The silence that followed was brutal. You could almost hear Denton's reputation collapsing under the weight of his own arrogance. Then I slid a single red envelope across the table, the same one from Santa. This, I said, showed up after my daughter's letter to the North Pole. It mentioned that someone was trying to cancel Christmas. Funny thing. Santa seems to know the bylaws better than some people. Mrs. Green opened the envelope and began reading aloud. The Santa letter laid out every instance of Denton's misconduct, citing the HOA's exact sections he'd violated. It wasn't just a prank. It was a legal summary disguised in holiday cheer. When she reached the final line, "You violated the Christmas code, section 9.2. Thou shalt not ruin December." The room broke into laughter. Even the board members cracked smiles. Denton looked ready to sink into the carpet. Mrs. Green cleared her throat. "Mr. Denton, based on this evidence, we'll be suspending your enforcement authority effective immediately pending investigation. Furthermore, the HOA will waive all fines issued to the Lawson family." A cheer erupted from the neighbors. Someone shouted, "Merry Christmas!" and the room joined in applause. Denton tried to protest, but the board president silenced him with a single look. "Charles, you've embarrassed this community. Perhaps you should take some time off." The man who once strutted around with a clipboard like a sheriff walked out of that clubhouse empty-handed, his reputation shredded like wrapping paper on Christmas morning. I exhaled for the first time in weeks. The stress, the anger, the sleepless nights, it all melted away in that moment. Emma tugged on my sleeve. "Dad, does that mean Santa fixed it?" I smiled down at her. "Yeah, kiddo. Santa and a little bit of Wi-Fi." The next day, something magical happened. Every house on Maplewood Drive, every single one, lit up brighter than ever before. Lights hung from mailboxes. Candy canes lined the sidewalks. Even Mrs. Green put a glowing reindeer on her lawn. A note appeared on our porch that night. It wasn't signed, but I recognized the handwriting. "Dear Lawson family, maybe I overreacted. Merry Christmas." CD, I didn't need to frame it, but I kept it anyway, as proof that sometimes even the grinchiest of people can learn a little humility. By Christmas Eve, the whole street gathered outside for cocoa and carols. Emma insisted we leave out an extra cookie for Santa, for helping Dad win the meeting. I chuckled. "Yeah, I think he earned it." The lights twinkled across our home, brighter than ever. The camera feed still rolling caught it all. The joy, the laughter, and the faint glimmer of justice wrapped in holiday spirit. In the end, we didn't just win a fight with the HOA. We reminded the whole neighborhood that rules are meant to protect the community, not kill it, because sometimes all it takes is a letter from Santa and the courage to stand your ground.